First of all, I want to welcome everybody to this webinar, to this NetSuite webinar, and I want to give a big thank you to all attendees for taking time out of their busy day to attend this very important session. There are definitely people here that are not familiar in general with Accept.Blue. I see a lot of familiar names, but I see some unfamiliar names as well. So I'm going to take 30 seconds just to tell you what Accept.Blue is in a sentence. So we're an incredible white label omni-channel payment gateway. Our core products include a feature-packed virtual terminal, an open API, dozens of turnkey plugins, one of which is NetSuite, which is the topic of today's webinar. We serve ISOs, ISVs, banks, pretty much anybody that offers payment processing to merchants and has the ability to generate a bar sheet. They're able to resell our gateway to their merchants. Okay, a minute on just how this webinar is going to work, just a format. So we blocked off 45 minutes, but as with most of our presentations, we'll try to keep it within 30 minutes to get you guys out by then. I know our resellers are busy people, and I also know that they're very smart people and they learn very fast. So they're going to get everything we're trying to tell them. This webinar is special because usually when I'm doing webinars, I'm joined by someone from a third-party integrated party or software, and we're presenting this integration or partnership. But this time, I'm joined by our very own Holly Lewis, who is our Director of ISO Relations and also manages the NetSuite plugin implementation and ongoing support. She is also, besides for those two things, she's also everyone's favorite person. That's a fact. So again, it's a cloud-based online portal where businesses manage things like finances, inventory, operations, customer data, all the different moving parts of their businesses, they're able to manage within one centralized portal. And that's what the NetSuite ERP is. It's owned by its company, which is Oracle, and it's used by tens of thousands of businesses nationwide. It's been around for a pretty long time, one of the oldest ERP systems in the market, and it's still considered one of the top selling and used ERP systems out there. So great software. Where the plugin comes into play is payments. So merchants can do a lot of things within their NetSuite environment, within their NetSuite portal. But one of the things that they're missing is processing payments. And that's where our plugin comes into the picture. So once our plugin is installed into a merchant's NetSuite account, they're able to not only manage their inventories and their staff and their, all the different stuff that go on in their businesses, they're also able to process payments natively. Again, all within that NetSuite interface. So instead of processing the order, meaning without a plugin, a merchant can be logged into NetSuite, manage the order, create the order, go through all the different steps. But when it comes time to actually taking payments for that order, they'll have to log into a completely separate portal or system, process the payment, and then have the manual task of updating their NetSuite account to record this order as paid and all the different manual reconciliations that will be involved in that. Our plugin takes that whole process and moves it all to within NetSuite. So instead of having to process that payment outside of NetSuite, you're now able to natively process the payment inside of that NetSuite interface. And this is a huge deal for merchants. A, it means one system instead of two. And number two, it cuts out all that manual updating and reconciliation that's involved when you're using two separate systems, and instead completely automates everything in a seamless way so that everything just happens all natively within NetSuite. Okay, so that's what NetSuite is, and that's where our plugin comes into the picture to bring payments within NetSuite. Now, some of you on this webinar are familiar with Acceptable, and you know that we have dozens of plugins like NetSuite. We have plugins for Salesforce, for Magento, for WooCommerce, for Microsoft Dynamics, and you might be wondering, why is Ben making such a big deal about NetSuite in particular? It's one of many plugins that the gateway has. So to address that, I think there's two reasons. There's what I call opportunity and then what we call options. So the first thing I'm going to focus on is the opportunity part. So realize that NetSuite merchants are the prized catch in payment processing. So NetSuite merchants are almost always high volume, high revenue merchants, which means that you as the ISO stand to gain tremendously from getting those accounts. It's very typical, very normal for NetSuite merchants to be processing hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars a month in credit card processing or ACH processing. And they're out there for the for the taking for those people that are able to offer them payment processing in NetSuite. It's important to realize that businesses will only use NetSuite once they've already reached a certain significant scale. So they're going to typically pay anywhere from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands for the initial implementation of NetSuite. Again, business is not talking about the plugin for a second. Just for a business to get set up with NetSuite means they're making a very big investment, cost-wise, time-wise, resource-wise, and then the ongoing costs are also typically thousands of dollars monthly. So when we're talking about NetSuite merchants, we're automatically talking about big catches, great catches for ISOs that can make a very significant amount of revenue on these accounts. So that's the opportunity. The second part of why this is a big deal is the options. So there are very few native payment processing plugins on the market for NetSuite merchants. We've been around for a while. We know what's out there. Holly is very familiar with the competing products, and we can tell you with certainty that there's very few products, period, that bring payments into NetSuite. And for those that do it at our caliber, there's even less than that. There are some other products that are clunky, that lack certain features, prohibitively expensive. The fact is that there's very few options for merchants using NetSuite and are looking to take payments with the NetSuite. There are very few options available for them. Less options is a good thing in this case because it means meaning it means less competition for you, meaning it becomes much easier for you as the ISO, as the agent, to capture these accounts because you're not really competing against anything. It also means that once you do catch the account, those merchants will be far stickier and likely to stay with you for much, much longer. Okay, so opportunity is huge. These merchants are absolutely, pretty much the best type of merchant you can get. And the options out there are so few and so lacking that it makes what we bring to the table pretty much a slam dunk on every sale, every time you're going to meet a NetSuite using merchant. And the fact is, with all the plugins that we have, NetSuite is hands down our best selling plugin, beating even really great products like Microsoft Dynamics and Sage and Acumatic and stuff like that. This is our best selling product in terms of plugins. And it's for those reasons that we just mentioned. Okay, I hope that helped give a basic background overview of what NetSuite is, what the plugin does, why this is such a big deal, why we think it's so important for every one of our ISOs and resellers to be aware of this. I've been talking for a while, so what I'm going to do is hand over the mic to Holly, who's going to give you a small taste of what the merchant sees when they're using our plugin with the NetSuite, and it's going to give you a little bit of an idea of what our plugin supports. It's not going to cover everything, but it's going to give you a little bit of the flavor of our NetSuite plugin. So, Holly, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and share my screen. And can you open it up to share?
Should be good now.
Everybody seeing my NetSuite?
Yeah, looking good.
Okay, perfect. So with NetSuite, I think the main portion behind it is there are tons of different products and capabilities that it can be utilized in because it is such a vast product. I don't expect you as a sales agent to know the ins and outs of it. What we do is we provide discovery calls where I talk through the process with your merchant, identify what their needs are, and I'll provide a live demo for them that will go over the exact details and features that they would need. When the NetSuite plugin, it's really designed to support merchants at any stage, whether they're brand new to NetSuite or they've been using it for years. It allows merchants to process payments directly within the interface using their workflows and suits their needs that they already have in place. Whether they're using sales orders to do pre-authorizations and then capturing later, or taking deposits, or even processing full payments, the plugin accommodates their unique workflows in a seamless manner. So they really have a couple different ways that they can process. They can be completely hands-off and place a payment button on either their invoices or their sales orders, which is going to allow their customer to utilize a hosted page to input their own payment details, whether that be credit card or ACH, and then that would satisfy the payment and record back into the merchant's records. Their other options are to take payments manually themselves, and they can do that a couple different ways as well. They can either do a one-time payment, which will just allow them to input the payment details for this particular card and process this payment, and then it wipes those details from the system, so nothing's saved for that customer. They can also save cards directly while they're processing, so a new payment record. Once they process this particular payment, that detail is saved under the customer record. And then for the cards that they already have on file, we have two different ways that they can pull from those records. The easiest is through Card Helper, which is just a quick click. They click the card that they want to utilize for processing. That fills everything else in for them. They save to actually process the payment. Once it goes through, it's very easy for them to identify the response for the transaction. They can see the banner at the top here. It's going to tell them exactly what happened with their processing, as well as a transaction log. That's going to give them additional details on the sale that was processed. So as far as processing the payment goes, that handles it both those ways. They would also have the ability from a customer record to send out a email to their customer that brings up a hosted page again. It's not processing a payment, but it allows them to collect card details so they can be completely hands-off with secure information or sensitive information. And then they can also process multiple invoices at one time directly from the customer record. So everything as far as the setup to the way that they're paying is done directly on the invoices that have been created for this customer. And then it's right back to the payment tab where they could fill out. It's the same regardless of what type of payment record they're utilizing. There are some other features within the plugin, such as auto pay, that can be configured at a customer level. That takes their invoices, and once it's created, they can set an offset date to where it'll process the payment automatically behind the scenes for them. There's reconciliation points for them, and there's many different settings that they would have control over, as well as the way that it feeds into the gateway. All the transactions within NetSuite record the payment record information, so it's easy to align and navigate between the reporting and finding that record within NetSuite. And there's the ability for them to utilize the receipts from the gateway, as well as coordinating the different settlement efforts as well. Then I'll go ahead and pass back to you.
Thank you very much, Holly. That was great. I've seen this demo a couple of times, but it never gets old. It's like your favorite movie. You can just watch it again and again. So thank you for that. Much appreciated. As Holly mentioned, this is not the comprehensive demo. This is not the time and place for that. But we just wanted to give you a bit of that feeling of what your merchant will see. We're showing you how it's all within NetSuite. That was all the NetSuite interface, yet the merchant still had all those different options when it came to processing payments. So, Holly, I know again that was just a snapshot without actually going back into the demo. Is there anything else you wanted to just mention briefly that the plugin supports that ISOs should be aware of? And we'll take it from there.
One of the reasons that the plugin works so well for everybody is there's a lot of native NetSuite aspects and settings that tie into it, or that it relies on in order for the plugin to be utilized. So any of the users that are configured within NetSuite, it's going to follow their setup. There's not any real additional permissions or anything that would be controlled by the plugin. There's also the ability to set up different processing profiles that can control different save card records, and that can be configured at a subsidiary, location, class, department level. So there's a lot of different ways that it can be set up that allows the merchant to have the flexibility that they need.
Very nice. Something else that I think would be a mistake not to mention is level 2 and 3 interchange optimization. I know for many of our ISOs, B2B is a big focus. L2 and 3, level 2 and 3 is a big selling point. As with all our plugins, as with our virtual terminal, we automate level 2 and 3. So when it comes to NetSuite, we're pulling the actual data from their orders from the system and we're passing that on to our processors. So they're automatically getting those interchange rates without them having to do any manual work, anything additional when processing payments. For all merchants, for almost all merchants, level 2 and 3 is a big deal. But for NetSuite using merchants, which typically pretty much exclusively process B2B transactions, L2 and 3 eligible transactions, getting those lower interchange rates automatically is absolutely a game changer and should absolutely be one of the top selling points of the plugin. Okay, thank you again, Holly. Let me mention, I think 2 points, one or two more points that are very important before we move on to question and answer. So uh, there are many plugins, there are many systems that accept flow as a gateway integrates to. Something that's unique about NetSuite is that it's an in-house plugin. So there's no third parties that are involved. You don't need to go to a third party in order to get the plugin installed and managed. Everything happens in-house, all inside except Upload. And the reason why this is such a big deal is because A, it allows for customizations, updates. In fact, we're constantly updating the plugin. We've had this NetSuite plugin is not new for us. We've had it for years at this point. But literally we're like there isn't a month or two that goes by without a new update, without a new feature coming out into the plugin. And that's how we've gotten it to the point where it's so comprehensive and so featureful that it pretty much beats everything else out there on the market. So having that ability to in-house do everything and not rely on the third party really allowed us to bring more features and allows us to continuously customize the plugin. So if a merchant has a specific need, even if it's specific for one merchant, for one account, we're able to make those adjustments as needed because again, this is our plugin. We're not just the gateway here, we're the gateway and the plugin provider. And the second reason why it being an in-house plugin is such a big deal is because of support. Now, support is always important. Support is important for regular gateway accounts, for other plugins. But with NetSuite, it's not important, it's critical. So NetSuite accounts can be very complex. You can ask Holly and she has a lot of stories to tell you if you'd like to hear them. But they could be very complex and it's a comprehensive software with a lot of moving parts and support for merchants when it comes to even those plugins, those other payment plugins that are around, really fail when it comes to support. That's something we know. But because this plugin is ours and it's in-house, we're able to bring that white glove support, that responsive, attentive, knowledgeable, competent support to these merchants. And I'm telling you, sometimes we get lost in like the technical aspects of a plugin. When we're selling to a merchant, we're telling them about this feature, that feature. Don't forget to tell them about support because they're going to love that. They're going to really appreciate the fact that they can have someone that's available, that's knowledgeable, able to help them. It's definitely not something to be overlooked. And again, we have this because this is our plugin. So we control all parts of it, including ongoing support. Okay, that's pretty much it for the in terms of the demo and the explanation of what the plugin is. I want to open the floor to some questions and answers. There's quite a few over here. While Holly was doing the demo, I did take a quick peek, so I'm going to address some of those more common questions right out of the gate, and then we'll see if there's anything else that we want to address. So one of the more common questions is, well, what is the process? You have a merchant, they're looking to sign up, and that's using merchant. You made the sale, congratulations. What are next steps? So this is typically the way it works. Before we do any install or any implementation, we strongly recommend what we call a discovery call. So we're going to set up a call between you, the ISO, the agent, whoever's selling, whoever the reseller of Accept Upload is, with the merchant and our team. It's usually Holly. It's important that the ISO be on the call. Again, we're a white label gateway. We don't have any direct relationships with merchants, so the ISO needs to be involved. So we'll have that discovery call, all three of us together, and we'll just make sure that the plugin checks off all the boxes that the merchant needs, become aware of any special customizations that the merchant has. We want to make sure before we move on to actual installation that everybody's on the same page. So we have that initial discovery call. In 99% of the cases, the merchant is very excited by the time the call is over and they're ready to move on to implementation. Implementation is usually done in two stages: sandbox, production. So most merchants using NetSuite, or many merchants using NetSuite, have a sandbox environment. We're going to first install the plugin into their sandbox environment, have them test it, play around with it, tell us if they need any tweaking or anything of that sort. And when they're happy, we move on to production implementation. So we'll take the plugin and do install into their production account. We'll take care of everything. Merchant doesn't have to do anything other than give us access. We'll take care of both the sandbox and production installation. And then again, we'll be there to provide ongoing support. So fairly simple discovery call, implementation, and the merchant is good to go. Let me see if there's anything else that that is coming up. We have some questions here with surcharging and dual pricing. Hallie, I know we definitely have some options there. You want to address that one? Go ahead.
So the plugin does support compliant surcharging whenever it is configured within the gateway account. It will apply it automatically based off of the rules that you have set in your reseller portal. And then it does also support non-compliant or non-mandatory surcharge directly in the NetSuite interface to where it could be configured to be added per customer, per transaction at whatever rules the merchant sees fit.
Fantastic.
There's not a dual pricing option. Sorry.
Got it. Okay, we have some questions about if there's other parties involved in getting it implemented. The short answer is no. We'll take care of everything. The slightly longer answer is that when it comes to certain customizations or NetSuite specific work, we have a partner that we work with that sometimes joins us during those implementations and is more knowledgeable in NetSuite specifically versus the plugin and is able to to customize implementation to work perfectly. We've got some questions about ACH. The plugin supports both card transactions and ACH transactions. Quite a few questions about level 2 and 3, so I'm going to go over that really quickly. No manual work needed from the merchant to process the transaction. So there's nothing additional they need to do. And yes, we're pulling real data from the order. So it's not generated data. We're taking the information that we already have, that the merchant already has in their system, and we're using that to get them the lower interchange rates. Quite a few questions about card present. I know, Holly, that has come up in the past. I don't recall if we will be implementing that, if we already have. If you want to address card present transactions within NetSuite, which is not really typical, but there are a few questions on that, so go ahead and address it.
It has come up from time to time. It's not something we have moved forward with right now, but it is on our planned roadmap for the future. There is the ability to do card present directly inside of the gateway with the Equinox terminals and then manually record them in NetSuite. Since it's not something that merchants typically use on a day-to-day, that seems to have worked so far, but it definitely is something that we'd like to move forward with going in the future.
Okay. Thank you. Quite a few questions on what the plugin does not work with, and I see Sweet Commerce mentioned a couple of times. So this is something really important. The plugin is for the ERP product. So NetSuite has different products, Oracle has different products. This plugin is for the ERP system. So the merchant is using Sweet Commerce. This is not a good match. This is not a good fit. We might have a plugin for Sweet Commerce one day. Hopefully we will. But right now, this is not something we have a plugin for. Ours is for the ERP system, not for Sweet Commerce. Um, the surcharging, just a follow-up question on surcharging, that's configured within the gateway account. So wherever you usually configure your surcharge in the gateway, that's where you configure surcharge for the NetSuite accounts as well. It's not done with the NetSuite. Hallie covered this in the demo, but for those that didn't catch it, because I do see a few questions, there definitely is the ability to send out links from within NetSuite to the customers and have the customer pay. This is one of the big differentiators between our plugin and some of the other, plugins on the market for NetSuite. Our link options are comprehensive. You can take card, ACH payments on those links. You can just securely collect the card information via those links. So this is something that a lot of the bigger names out there don't have, and it's something that merchants really, really appreciate. Um, let's see. There's a lot of questions, 40 to be exact. So let me see. Can they see their batches inside NetSuite? I know that's important for a lot of merchants, so Holly, go ahead and address that.
Yeah, there is a reconciliation portion of it, to where the gateway sends the transactions that made up a particular batch into NetSuite, and they can be reconciled directly from there for them.
Okay. A lot of questions about how this compares to other products. So there's quite a few differentiators here. I'm going to mention them briefly. First, again, I'm going to really hanker down on that support piece. Ask your merchant if they're already using a NetSuite plugin from a different provider. Ask them if they're happy with support. The answer is going to be no. I'm not a prophet, but I can tell you the answer is going to be no, and you can tell them that you're absolutely going to love the support that we bring to the table with this plugin. One big differentiator. The next one is going to be features. There are other products out there. I'm going to mention one of the big names like CyberSource. There are definitely other payment plugins out there, but we do much more than the other ones. So features like surcharge, compliance surcharging, level 2 and 3 interchange optimization, the links that we mentioned, all that are not to be taken for granted. They're not necessarily available within other products, but they are available within our plugin. A few questions on costs. I'm going to address that because it's actually a differentiator as well. So typically, NetSuite plugins, payment plugins will go from anywhere from $500, $1,000 a month or more. Our fee is definitely on the lower side, so you're looking at a $495 install fee. So whenever we install the plugin, that's a one-time fee of $495, and then an ongoing monthly cost of $300 for the plugin. This is not something your merchants will even notice or realize. I mean, they'll notice and realize, but it's going to be a factor for them. These costs are minimal for NetSuite merchants. And again, compared to the price point of other products, it's definitely something they're going to be saving on as well. But really, cost should never really be a factor. That just the level 2 and 3 savings will far outweigh anything that they're going to pay in terms of the plugin. Okay, we didn't get to everything, Hallie. We did get to a fair amount. See, we're coming up on time over here. There are no versions of NetSuite, the ERP system, that this doesn't work with. So, it works with all versions of the ERP. There's a question about installation time. Hallie, if you want to address that one.
2 to 3 days, but it's really just communicate your needs and we'll make it happen.
Got it. Yeah, so I see there's a question about support. So it could be this is a little different than people are used to because usually we don't speak to merchants directly as a white label gateway. Our support is to the ISO. The ISO supports the merchant. NetSuite is one of those instances where we join the ISO in communicating with the merchant because of the complexities involved and because ISOs are not really knowledgeable in the space, nor do they need to be. Um, in these cases, when it comes to NetSuite opportunities, we'll come on together with the ISO and we'll provide that support for the merchants so they feel comfortable and they get all their questions answered. Um, let's see. Okay, I think we're gonna hold it here. Somebody asked if it's a registered NetSuite app. No, it's not a suite app. You're not gonna find it in the marketplace, but there really shouldn't be any difference. Like this shouldn't be a factor in the decision for the merchant. It's just a question of marketing. Do you get to have your spot in the suite app in the NetSuite marketplace or not? But in terms of functionality, security, enhancements, updates, there are no differences between a suite app or something which is managed outside of the marketplace. Um, okay, we're gonna hold it here. Thank you very much. We're gonna try to get to the questions that we didn't answer post call one-on-one. But if not, you're always welcome to email us, call us. Our email support is support@accept.blue. There's no .com. Really common mistake. So just support@accept.blue, and we'll definitely get you answered. If you have a merchant that's using NetSuite, go ahead, send an email. We'll set up a discovery call. Your merchant is going to love this, guaranteed. I mean, they are. Holly can tell us how many times a merchant has actually seen the demo, seen what it offers, and said no. This is it's usually a slam dunk on the sale. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Holly. It's been a pleasure, and we'll talk to all of you soon. Bye bye.